Welcome to another installment of this week's news. A lot of headlines to cover, a lot of things headed our way, especially with the coronavirus vaccine, so stay tuned. Let's start off with the first article. As COVID numbers continue to rise up and into 400,000s, here is an all-too-common story that seems to be brushed under by mainstream media. She did not die from COVID. Son fights for accurate reporting about mother's death. Without doing any autopsy, without doing any sort of diagnostics as to how this woman died, the doctors ruled her death as sepsis, COVID-19, and hypoxic respiratory failure. The Sun is fighting to make sure this is corrected. But remember, there was an article earlier this year that stated the following. Only 6% of total COVID deaths are actually from COVID. Everybody else has died from some other illness or disease. They just easily ruled it as COVID to make it as convenient as possible and to push the propaganda. Now, going into the COVID vaccine itself. Report from Fed Up 100%. 55 people have died in the U.S. after taking COVID vaccine. The article summarizes that VAERS reported so far in the U.S. 55 have died from the vaccine. However, I've done the digging. I could not find the report. This doesn't mean that the 55 deaths didn't happen. It just means that the data is hard to get to, and whatever these guys saw is no longer up on the website. And moving on. California health officials call for pause on Moderna vaccine batch due to reports of allergic reaction. California's top epidemiologist, Dr. Eric S. Pan, issued a statement Sunday evening recommending a pause on the use of the huge batch of Moderna's COVID vaccine due to its higher than usual number of possible allergic reactions. Article continues to say that a higher than usual number of possible allergic reactions were reported with a specific lot of Moderna vaccine administered at one community vaccination clinic. Fewer than 10 individuals required medical attention over the span of 24 hours, Dr. Pan said. Out of the extreme abundance of caution, also recognizing the extremely limited supply of vaccines, we are recommending that providers use other available vaccine inventory and pause the administration of vaccines from Moderna Lot 041L20A until the investigation by the CDC, FDA, Moderna, and the state is complete. We will provide updates as we learn more. Unfortunately, still many believe that these vaccines are safe and effective, especially after rushed in less than a year. Moving on to the next article. China health experts call for suspension of COVID vaccine as Norway investigates 33 deaths, Germany probes into 10 deaths. The Norway death count last week went up 10 more deaths from 23 to 33, while Germany health officials said they are investigating 10 deaths that occurred among elderly patients who received the COVID vaccine. Chinese health experts say Norway and other countries should suspend the use of the mRNA vaccine like those produced by Pfizer and Moderna, especially among the elderly, according to Global Times. Norway health officials said last week they were investigating the deaths of 23 elderly people who died shortly after receiving the vaccine and confirmed 13 of those were directly related to the vaccines. Today, Bloomberg reported that the number of deaths under investigation in Norway had risen to 33, and that had occurred in people ranging from age 75 to 80, according to Bloomberg. It is important to remember that 45 people die every day in nursing homes in Norway, so it is not given that this represents any excess mortality out there. There is a causal connection. Here's something to think about. As you saw in the beginning article, doctors were quickly to rule that the death of that person's mother was COVID-19 without doing any investigation at all. However, when the vaccine kills someone, they go out of their way to find something, anything, to disprove the fact that the vaccine killed anyone at all. Can you imagine the actual numbers that are out there that are not being reported? They're probably through the roof, climbing through the ceiling. This is going to kill millions of people, and this is going to be absolutely tragic, and none are going to be the wiser as to what in the world happened. Moving on to the next article. And from everybody's lovable doctor, Dr. Fauci, COVID vaccine may become mandatory. I like the idea of that. Let's just stick everybody with an experimental vaccine that has not been tested on across the board. Let's just see where that goes. The wonderful, the amazing, the do-gooder, the best doctor in the world, Dr. Fauci, has told the media vaccines may be required by some business for overseas travel, and when it comes to schools, everything's on the table. But as more vaccine-related deaths and injuries are reported, the less likely the mandates will become widespread. That's right. You're going to work really hard to make sure those vaccine deaths become severely underreported. Keep on going, Dr. Fauci. You know what's best for this country and the people. Nothing like a globalist great resetter to really get things going. Next article. WHO finally admits COVID-19 PCR test has a problem. Oh, something I've been sounding the alarm on since the beginning. All the evidence out there showing that this PCR test is absolutely inaccurate, especially the rapid response test. WHO's new guidance, which includes a lower PCR threshold, almost guarantees COVID cases numbers will automatically drop dramatically around the world. Article states, even though they've been widely used, the PCR tests across the U.S. and around the world to determine who has a positive case of COVID, PCR assays are not designed to be used as a diagnostic tool, as they can't distinguish between inactive viruses and live or reproductive ones. The article further states, the thing is, the more the cycles that a test goes through, the more likely that a false positive will come up. Anything over 30 cycles actually magnifies the sample so much that even insignificant sequences of viral DNA end up being magnified to the point that the test reads positive, even if your viral load is extremely low or the virus is inactive and poses no threat to you or anyone else. What that means in plain language is that the more cycles a test goes through, the more false positives that are reported, making this not a COVID pandemic, but a PCR pandemic. I've been saying this since the beginning of this nonsense. Moving on to the next article. DTP vaccine from Bill Gates killed 10 times more African girls than the disease itself. Some of the article says that they compared children in Guinea-Bissau who received the vaccine and children who didn't. They found that the children who did were found to have died 10 times the rate of other children. The jab was also found to make vaccinated children more susceptible to other deadly diseases that unvaccinated children do not typically contract. The vaccine apparently compromised their immune systems. What I talked about earlier, the pathogenic priming in previous videos. Take a look at the other videos I've posted. You'll see what I'm talking about. And everybody's favorite president, Barack Obama's back in the news. Senate finds Obama admin knowingly funded Al-Qaeda affiliate. Are we surprised? Is anyone really shocked? Terrorism across the globe has grown here to keep us in perpetual war. Remember Wesley Clark's video, 7 countries to be toppled. I'll let you guys take the digging in that article. It's a lot to read, but it's important stuff. Again, stuff mainstream media just lets go right under the table. Moving on to the next article, liberal media. Big tech increased calls to deprogram, deplatform Trump supporters. This is the digital gulag. This is communism in full swing. Everything you're seeing is to silence anyone who is against the power structure's details. There's a reason Lady Gaga dressed up in the Hunger Games attire during the inauguration. We are headed for that society where the conservatives or anyone who's against the established power structure will be confined to the outer rim of society, the most struggling portion of society. Those who do not conform will suffer the consequences. Those who conform, you have to sell your soul. But you'll live in luxury. Up to you what you want to do. As the environment collapses and as people continue on, they create new solutions. Humans are now being legally composted in Washington. That's right, people. We're headed in this direction. Once you die, you go back to the earth without any questions. Moving on, next article. Vaccine injury reporting system. Utterly inadequate, independent researchers say. Article goes to say that new peer-reviewed study of adverse events following the MMRV vaccine highlights the urgent need for independent research on vaccine safety and the importance of informed consent and vaccine choice. Article goes to say that the study, published by 2 Northern Italian researchers on an open access platform, suggests that the most existing safety monitoring systems, whether in Italy or in the US, are utterly inadequate to document the real incidence of serious AEFIs, and that other current methods of assessing vaccine-related casualty may be questioned. Are you honestly surprised? Costs 3 to 7 cents to make to sell it to $150 per vaccine. However, they made zero effort to determine if somebody died of COVID or not. They just assumed. Moving on. Now, article says flu vaccine is not interchangeable with the COVID vaccine. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Right before we hit the new year, every doctor kept saying, get the flu shot, get the flu shot, get the flu shot. It'll help you with COVID. It'll give you immunity. It'll give you something for your immune system. Once again, we've been lied to. No surprise. What I'm guessing happened here is the flu shot tanked the immune system of other people, and then they got the COVID vaccine, and next thing you know, we got more problems. Next article, GOP congressman give 1,400 stimulus checks to people who get the COVID-19 vaccine. Steve Stivers, a Republican out of Ohio, in an interview stated that we need to be bribed. That the only way to help these people in a man-made pandemic, a PCR pandemic, is to bribe them with $1,400 from stimulus in order to get them a vaccine that isn't effective and will hurt them. Your future looks bleak, folks, but I promise you it will get better once many start realizing what is actually going on and where we're going. Thank you for tuning in. Consider subscribing. We need your support to get this information out there as censorship becomes ramped up. We'll never ask for money. We only ask that you pass on the information.